to be like a living example of what it could be for any one of us, you know. So I wanted to, his name is Michael Ridge. I wanted to introduce him to everybody, have him talk about his life and some of his perspective, some of the lessons that he's learned in traveling by horseback and living that life in a sovereign way like that. And so I like your kind attention as he expresses himself.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me out here and inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hold it closer.
Kind of soft-spoken.
I am. I'm very soft-spoken. That's true. I got a very quiet voice, one that does not compete for attention. That's true. If I want to speak, you're going to have to hand me a mic because I got that quiet voice. But for the last 12 years, I've been living and traveling through America's wildlands. Between the Cascade Range, that coastal mountain range, and the Rocky Mountains, from Canada to Mexico. And it's in these places, in the scattered mountain ranges of the West, that we still have food, medicine, and materials of those traditional systems. Some of these places have food, medicine, and materials of these original systems so abundant that the only thing missing is the people. And I was introduced to these things at a young age, in my early 20s. And I was introduced to them by somebody who had been living and traveling on horses for over 30 years. And they learned from wisdom keepers that had to practice in private. They learned from people that didn't speak English. Introduced to different traditional foods of everything from greens and roots, shoots, tubers, berries, nuts, and fruits, and all the processes and how they change through the seasons, and how everywhere you go, those patterns change depending on where you are. And so as I come here today, the first thing that I recognize is the strawberries that are fruiting right over here, where those white posts are. They can't mow right there, so the strawberries are fruiting. And then I walk into the forest back here and see different plants that I recognize. They're a little bit different. Everywhere you go, similar kind of plants, similar raspberries, gooseberries. And so everywhere I go, and how I live and travel on the horses is through these seasons, acknowledging these foods and participating with them. And that's what I was taught to do. So as I live and travel, roaming on my horses, we're paying real close attention to what's left of these original systems, because they have a lot to offer, and they're going to offer a lot of healing to the people that are still there. Yeah. Half hour to go. All right. So a big part of what I was taught to do is how to feed yourself, how to clothe yourself, how to shelter yourself through all the seasons, and how to navigate this world on horses. So me and my horses, they come from the Umatilla Indian Reservation down there in eastern Oregon. They come off of Kainai Ridge. And I got them when they were just babies, rounded up. And so for years, they followed my previous string of horses until they became my string of horses. And that's who I ride and travel with now. And they travel alongside the highways next to semi-trucks. They travel in the alpine country on steep mountain trails where the snow peaks are. They travel in the deep canyon lands where the fruit ripens in the late summer. And so they've been carrying me through all these years. And it's a connection that I would like to see more people have access to. It's a connection that is very powerful, but it's also not easy. It's not easy to move through land. There's so much private property. And in America, where I'm traveling, there's vast, open wildlands. And all these different designations of wildlands. They have Forest Service, Wilderness Area, National Recreation Area, Bureau of Land Management, State lands. These are all different variations of public land. And they made it easy, you know, by making it complex, they made it easy. Because they created this gray area. They created their own ambiguity that they used to destroy their land, but they created that ambiguity for us to go back out there and not break their laws. Each one of these federal lands has a stay limit and you can move between them. And so I can travel, and then posting these things on the internet. I've been fortunate enough to amass a following, so I get access to lands that would be otherwise private, inaccessible. And more, everywhere I go, participating with these original foods, these medicines, and planting them. I find that what I was really taught to do is spreading healing, of beauty, abundance, of original creation that way. And then everyone I come into contact with is presented with those same things. Everybody that I participate with is introduced to the world around us. And I know what it's done for me. I know that it's shaped me into become whoever I am. It's been crucial and instrumental in giving me an identity that's rooted in place. And it's made me realize that healing is a natural process that takes place. And so when I got to know the world that we're in, the world that I was living in, that transformed into a sense of place, which transformed into a sense of identity, rooted in something real. That sense of place turns into a sense of belonging. And for me, it's the plants. All these different plants. That's the original language. Everything growing and expressing itself in its own unique patterns, in its own unique structure, with its own unique colors that change and transform different directions you would go to. And so, no matter what's been lost, as long as it's still living, growing, and it's telling its story. And when you live and travel immersed in the land from horses, you have access to those stories as they transform before your eyes. So in the wintertime, I set up structures and I camp. And in the springtime, I pack up that camp and I saddle up the horses and I travel. And immediately as the snow melts, the land starts to feed you. Those early spring greens, those roots. And you can follow those roots up into elevation out in the Mountain West. And then you can come back down for a second wave and follow those up and when the berries start. And then you come back down for the fruit and follow those up. And the land breathes in different directions, in different foods and medicines, different materials. And because those systems are fragmented, I pay real close attention to them as best as I can, and I try to follow them as best as I can. But it's fragmented from private lands, from industry, from extraction. But I'd like to see these things recognized as not resources, but assets. I'd like to see land functioning as an ecosystem considered an asset. Because I think them seen as assets will clearly have people see them for their value. Because right now, the only thing land is seen as is for its extractive resources. But that doesn't sustain life. And so each one of these foods, each one of these systems needs to be seen because they provide more than industry could ever amount to. They sustain life. And so I'm grateful. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not going to take up too much time, but I said what I'd like to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, kind of reminiscent to some of the people who travel, like Henry David Thoreau in our environmental sciences. When we learned back in the 1890s, he was a conservationist, something like what Michael is doing. And that's a really long, lonely road, ladies and gentlemen, from Spokane to Lilib, Washington, to go see the tribes over there, and then back around through the Shoshone-Bannock people in Douglas Lake in Nevada. Those are his travels, and those are very, very long distances in southern Missoula, Montana. The Blackfeet people in Browning, the Chippewa Cree in Rocky Boy. Those are beautiful places. And when I echo his statements when he says that everything on earth is not a natural resource. Those are sacred elements, and they sustain themselves as they sustain us. And those are the purposes of our ceremonies, our sacred practices that were given to us by the Creator. And I'm really glad, I'm thankful that I met Michael today. And a lot of us know somebody that does work like Michael does and travels the same road. It's a healing road, it's a healthy journey, and we're all grateful to know him. And thank you for coming. Casey, shake his hand. The chief is gonna shake his hand. Michael, thank you for coming. It's truly an honor. Us day. And